All right, we'll call the March 23rd, 2026 regular meeting of Peters Township Council to order.
That's you?
Yeah. Ms.
Okay.
Waldinger?
Here.
Mr. Steigel?
Here.
Mr. Curry,
He's right there.
Say here,
Mr. Curry's here.
Here.
Mr. Kozer?
Here.
Ms. Shenefeld?
Here.
Mr. Vincey?
Here.
Mr. Lewis will not be here tonight.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 9th, 2026.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item is special reports, of which there are none. So we'll move right into audience comments. This is the part of the meeting where any member of the audience can speak.
Approval of the minutes?
You already did the minutes.
Oh, sorry. Didn't hear that.
We're off to a sluggish start this evening.
Yes, we are.
That's my fault too, because I took him out of turn. I just saw that now. All right, so we'll move into audience comments. This is the part of the meeting where any member of the audience can speak for up to 5 minutes on a non-agenda item. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? No?
Go ahead first. Sir, go ahead.
I'm Bob Simmons, 170 Simmons Road. I've been a resident of Peters Township for 65 years. If I could give this to you real quick. Another development coming up against my farm. So I came down and met with staff, and they were very nice and very helpful.
Thank you.
And we discussed some different options, but I'd first like to say currently, as you see, the first thing you see when you open there, currently, and I just want to point out that you know how quickly these developments are coming in or on my farm. And there was Tuscany, where the plan had, you have a buffer zone requirement between residential and farm, and there is no buffer zone. That was 13 years ago, no buffer zone. Then Tuscany 2 came in. I was down here. I'm sure you all remember I was here. That's the one where I have a road that comes up with a cul-de-sac tight against my peach orchard. The houses are there now. The houses are 25 feet from my peach trees. That's 25 feet. They are from the wall of the house to my peach trees. So I'm losing a lot of my peach orchard there because, as you know, I have a 100-foot requirement with the Department of Agriculture where I can't do some things, you know, some agricultural things and that. So this
Wait
other.
a second. Not to interrupt. Didn't we have an issue here? I thought
we
there
did.
was an agreement that
Yes.
no house was going to be built that close.
Yeah, we sure
And it was
did.
still built anyway?
No, there was a dispute between Mr. Simmons and the developer that got resolved, and what came out of that was those houses being built at that location.
Is he being held to a
He
100-foot buffer?
You changed it from a setback to a temporary setback. And yes, Mark Hostings did get mad at me because he said it was temporary setback. Don't want to, I only have 5 minutes. I'd like to.
You
can have as long as you want.
Simmons, don't
Okay.
worry
Just a
about it.
question. I thought the agreement was, it was as long as the trees were bearing fruit, they weren't allowed to build that close to them so that the trees wouldn't have to be taken out.
No.
No, that wasn't it. That was not. the
Anyway,
agreement.
it's done. The houses are
Well,
there.
no, we want to figure this out though. 'cause
No, we
that
did,
was
because
the
that
It's
came
understanding.
done.
before planning
And-
commission. That's what we
and
agreed to.
No buffer zone. No buffer zone. The
Because
buffer
I
zone.
remember you being.
I thought
Buffer zone
I
on
thought
the
there was a
Brookline.
lot that we said could not be developed.
Right, that's what I thought.
Right.
Well, that's actually news to me. I don't remember that, but I do
Because I remember-
remember
'cause I
setbacks.
remember.
There was supposed to be a 100-foot setback, and then Paul told me it was a temporary setback.
Because as I recall, we tabled the final approval of that plan, didn't we, because of this issue? And we made him move the setback or something, so Mr. Simmons didn't have to take the trees out.
Yeah, well,
Right.
It's done. The house is there. People are living there. It's over.
Did you have to cut trees down, or what?
I didn't push them out yet, but I didn't take care of them, so I couldn't take care of them. So those ones within that range around those houses, I just couldn't.
Because you're not allowed to spray
No
within
harvest.
100 feet of an occupied structure.
It's not just spray, and please be careful, it's not just spray. It's a 100 horsepower, 100 and over horsepower tractor, dust, rotary mower, it's not just spraying, just so you know that. It's important to me that you know that. It's not just spraying.
So essentially, you can't do anything.
That's
with
right, I
100
can't,
feet.
there's no possible way. And they are very vague. The Department of Agriculture is really hard to, they're very vague about it. They say, draw a picture, they say, draw a bubble around, around your equipment, that equipment or that sprayer, and make sure there's nobody within that 100-foot bubble. That's how it works. Okay, so now the Gearhold Farm is going to develop, and I have to say that they gave me this plan, and they made it very clear to me. Mr. Taylor just came in and said, hey, what do you think of this? So it's not, it's not official or anything like that, but I want to get out ahead of this. And of course, you see, if you look at that big picture where I wrote Simmons Apple Orchard, of course, once again, cul-de-sac. Tied up against my apple, so I'm gonna lose a bunch of my apple orchard now. I'm asking you to please, one, put this as an agenda item. I did ask for it to be on an agenda item. I don't know why I didn't get that, but wanted this to be on an agenda item. But I'm asking you, please, try to do something so that I don't end up with houses 25 feet from my apple trees. And it was a very good meeting. We discussed other types of, I pointed out other types of cul-de-sacs that come up to my farm where the houses are back, away. They were very receptive to that, and they said they could possibly try to do that. But the thing that was said to me that was, I think, very upsetting was, I said, the core of this is setbacks. And we brought up the 100 feet. And what staff said to me, the township's position is, if the new development coming in, if you were to ask or require a 100-foot setback from them, the farmer should give a 100-foot setback.
No, that isn't what was said.
Paul,
Let
Mark,
me-
now come on.
let me just
That's
clarify.
precisely what was said.
No, that was not what was said. Right now, there's a requirement for a buffer. And what was said, and this is where Bob and I will agree, is that the way this should occur going forward is that buffer should be planted and fenced off before the houses are sold.
And they're not.
And they're not.
And they're not.
And that's what should happen. But that buffer is only 20 foot wide. It is not 100 foot wide. And so when we were having a conversation about this, is how do you extend that buffer? What was said, not that it's the township's position, that maybe a way to do that is to take additional land off of the developer and offset it with a buffer on the other side that creates that 100-foot buffer.
Off of the farmer.
Right.
But you're still,
But to
but you're,
take a
My
100,
orchard has been there for 65 years. This is a new development coming in. I should not have to set back.
well, right, but it doesn't help you, right? Because the only way you're made whole is the 100 feet would have to be all in the development,
Correct.
right? Because
Correct.
at this point, you're on,
And
your
that
trees
is,
come to
and
the
I,
property
and
line.
I, and what I'm really,
Because it depends on how much there is from the line.
what I'm
to the
really
tree.
Well,
asking you,
right, but,
what I'm really asking you for,
probably.
what I'm really asking for is possibly an incentive. Hey, Mr. Developer, if you'll keep the houses 100 foot back, put the buffer zone in, if you'll do those things, maybe the township could give up on something. Maybe you have an open space requirement, right? Maybe you could give a little give up a little of that. If I stay there, if I'm able, I can't continue farming like that. That's just not gonna work. If you keep every development, keeps moving in on my farm. Maybe, I do provide open space. The county classifies, the county did their comprehensive land use plan, and they made top priority preserving farms, natural resources, and what do they call it? Recreational resources as a top priority. And they classify all those agricultural, natural resources, and recreation, they classify all those together. And I can tell you, my farm is like Simmons Park. People are walking, they come pick apples, they fish, I don't charge for fishing, they walk their dogs. I am like a park. So if you can help me stay by trying to keep the houses back just a little bit, you are preserving open space. 300 and some acres, my farm. Well, my farm's 170, then I lease some. It's about 350 acres. Okay, so if you can help me try to continue farm, keep the houses back away from me a little bit, get my buffer zone, which I never get the buffer zone. I mean, it's been 13 years. They never put the buffer zones in. And it would help me a lot, and it'll help me be able to continue farming in Peters Township.
Is that buffer, is that state required, or is that just, that's us?
That's a township rule.
So are we not enforcing it, or what? Or
I,
is this one of those where the builder's supposed to plant the buffer, but then the builder sells the house to a homeowner, and
Yes.
the builder gets
What's
lost, and the
typically
homeowner says, nobody told me?
and that's why I really think the only way the buffer works is for after the grading is done and the areas identified for the buffer, that before any building permits are issued on those lots, the buffer needs to be planted and a fence, at least a temporary fence, needs to be put up so that everybody understands that that buffer is required to stay.
What is it, is the buffer set forth on the recorded plan? Is there a note on the plan?
Yeah, oh, it's on there. It's on all those plans, yes.
No, then we should be enforcing it then.
We absolutely should be enforcing it. It should not be your burden to conform to people who are building around you.
Thank you.
That's kind of absurd, in my view.
And the buffer, and just as I said, the buffers, now after this, the Tuscany 2 development has happened, I've certainly realized the buffer isn't gonna solve, we have to talk about a 100-foot setback too. I'm
Well, you're a
sorry.
better man than I'd still be using those peach trees that are 25 feet.
Wait
From
for
the
the
house.
state to come and do something about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is
Can
the
I tell
widest-
them that? Can I tell the Department of Agriculture that? Peter Township told me to say, keep on going.
What's the widest
I mean, it's on video.
boom or piece of equipment that you have to
I agree.
drive between the property line and your trees, right? Because you're not growing the trees right up to the property line and maintaining them without, say, either
Actually, I have an
going on.
orchard, actually, it's an orchard tractor is made for that, and literally, it literally, 4 feet, it has this narrow cab, it's a narrow spray cab, like this, it's literally that wide, and I do have the features. Oh, you're right, you absolutely have a point there. But it's I would only need a 5 to 6 foot turning at the end of the peach tree, around the peach tree, 5 to 6 foot.
Because I completely agree with you saying, but we have 2 private property owners, and you don't want to be restricted by what they do, and it's not necessarily for them to be restricted from what you do, and you are there first.
And that is my only argument,
Right.
and it is, in these cases, especially where the orchard is, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars into that. And I know you don't believe that. I will be
Right.
happy to show you, it takes 20 years to get a good producing apple tree. And in that 20 years, hundreds of trees, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. For pruning every year, care.
So right now, your trees or the orchard is just like 5 feet off the property line, is what you're saying?
I would-
Somewhere. Can't they take some of this
Like in the-
green space and put it?
That is correct.
Yeah,
Yes, and
okay.
you're welcome to come see that too.
Sure.
yeah. Actually, it's there's 5 feet between there's a deer fence right on the property line, and literally, there's only.
Oh, so there's a fence, and you service the farm with that fence and don't go over the property line at all?
no, no.
Like your current
Well,
operation
no.
right now is set up to stay entirely within the
Actually,
limits
this farm that we're talking about right here, I leased it for 50 years. I leased it, so I'm farming on the other side. The deer fence is for the specifically for the apple orchard. It so happens I was farming the Gearholt farm, which is on the other side of the fence also.
The other thing that came out of our discussion that I would agree with Bob on is, I think there's an opportunity to configure a cul-de-sac, because there will be a temporary cul-de-sac here, but to configure it in such a way that it moves the houses further back from the property line.
I have a
That's what we
picture.
tried at Tuscany too,
I
and
have-
apparently it didn't work.
Well, no,
No.
it would have, if, at Tuscany, it would have been I have a picture of it there. That is Windermere. That comes up toward, that is the Windermere development where it says this could work better, where I wrote at the top of the picture, this could work better. Okay? That is in the Windermere development, that's where I live. I live in Windermere. At the end of Windermere, and the backs of all those people's yards is my farm. And all of those houses are well over 100 foot back from my farm.
Mr. Simmons, at the last time with the peaches, you said that the EPA had that pesticide rule on you of 100 feet. Is it the same type of pesticides for the apple trees?
Yeah,
It's-
what Bob is saying though is it's just not pesticide.
Yeah, I really think it's important that everybody knows there, it is not just the pesticides. It is 100 horsepower tractor and over, like a bush hogs, you know. And I gotta be honest, I wouldn't want to bush hog 20 feet from a house. I'm gonna break somebody's windows, I'm gonna, you know what I mean, things fly out, you know.
Is it to a house or is it to,
That's it, and again, I apologize but the Department of Agriculture will not, because I asked them this, look, and the township has buffer zone, well, they never go in, but there's supposed to be a buffer zone in there. Will that make a difference with this 100-foot thing? Can I go, you know, with the buffer zone there? Cannot get an answer. So I have to go by the way the law is written now, and it's 100 foot, and what you're supposed to, no person or occupied building within the 100 foot. And I gave that law to the township, I did.
Mark, where are we at? Has this plan already been submitted?
Sketch plan. at this
Sketch plan.
point, nothing official.
Okay, so nothing, okay.
so your ask would be 100 feet from the line to
Property,
the
yeah,
first
not,
occupied
yeah,
structure?
yeah, not from the buffer zone out, from the property line back, correct. In other words, it would be property
So
line.
what you're really looking for
They're
is.
supposed to be a 20-foot buffer zone, and then 80 feet from that house.
Right, so really what you're looking for is 100 feet from the house to your property
To
line.
my property, that's it.
And that seems more than reasonable to me.
Yeah.
It seems like there would only be two,
But when I
one,
was
maybe
told,
one
but
structure.
I'm telling you, they gave me, okay, maybe there was a misunderstanding, but I certainly got the impression that the township feels I should give up just as much.
But
I don't think
would be
that-
wrong.
No, not at all.
No, but
Because-
what I want to know though is how many of these buffer zones that we have right now that we're not enforcing?
A lot.
And why are we not enforcing them?
A lot.
Well,
Because
the,
if
the,
we're-
the latest one with Bob disappears because of a settlement between, Bob and Mr.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hoskins. Yeah, that, I'll go back and pull the emails on
Are
it.
you talking about setback or buffer zone?
I'm talking about that whole thing with, Tuscany at those lots at the end of the road.
Okay,
There was a
that one I
there was
have
a
on- Paul,
disagreement
that one I have on
between.
email, okay, or on email.
There was a disagreement between, and I have to go back and research this, there was a disagreement between Mr. Hoskins about that and some property issue and
No, it
Mr.
was the
Simmons.
setback.
And there was a point in time when Mr. Simmons sent us an email that says, I'm withdrawing, my
On the setback.
Well, okay, but even if that's the case. I
That
mean,
has
are we
nothing to
changing
do with the buffer zone. It's
plan?
your law. You have a law
I
that
mean,
says
was
there's
there a
supposed to be a
lawsuit?
buffer zone. And see, Paul, that's not right.
Because, I mean, Mr. Simmons and Hoskins wouldn't have the ability to settle, you know, if there's a
law.
condition on a recorded plan.
Let
I
me go
mean,
back
that
and
has to.
I'll pull what we have.
I mean, if we approve a plan and the plan has a condition on it, you know, the two property
It's
owners
on-
can't get together and say, well, we're just gonna forget.
buffer
this.
zone
Hoskins
is
came
on
back
that
and
plan.
asked to have that 100 feet removed.
100 foot. That is correct.
And what was the result of that then?
The township approved the removal of that 100 feet.
So there's no setback.
There's only the
In fact,
25,
that came
20
to
foot
council
buffers.
to do that.
Yeah, it came to council as well.
I don't remember.
Oh,
Probably
trust me,
about a year
that
and
came
a
to
half
council.
ago.
We'll bring you the history of that. But that's not the point
Yeah.
here tonight. I think the thing is, we have rules with regard to the, the buffer zone, and they need to be enforced. And I think there's a way to do that and make sure that it gets done. I think the other thing is, we can attempt to get this plan modified in such a way that it separates the houses further from the, from the property line. But we're gonna do that by working with a developer, because you don't have a requirement that they be 100 feet away from the property line.
All right, make a note of that. Next, that has to be part of the comprehensive plan. I'm sorry, I should just, you're on the comprehensive plan committee, that's why I was pointing at you, Johnny. Because Bob's not here. But, yeah, I mean, it's really, it's not fair at all to Mr. Simmons. I mean, his family's been here, however, a lot longer than any of the rest of us have been, and, you shouldn't be having to.
Well, I appreciate that, and
Move on account of
I
somebody
am,
else.
and my point is, I can't, I'm sure if why would I say to my son or my daughter, hey, keep farming here, when I
keep
know
getting
that,
Yeah.
you're losing, and Township's not gonna really do anything to help with that.
Yeah, Paul, but if we can find out if there's any of these buffer zones that aren't being enforced.
We can
Because
check that
if
out.
they're not being enforced, then we need to be sending letters, and people need to be planting trees or whatever,
Okay.
because if that's the condition of the development, I know probably in some of them, the builder sells a lot, goes away, homeowner doesn't know, and they say, well, too bad, Should still be their problem. That's what title searches are for.
Thank you, Mr.
Simmons.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you for allowing more time.
Thank you.
Good, sir.
Police report. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg Skavinsky, 285 Rocky Ridge Road, Bethel Park. This concerns a road rage incident here in Peters in which I was involved. It occurred at the intersection of McMurray Road and Valley Brook Road, approximately 11:30 on 6 October of last year. I am here because I am not at all satisfied with the police response. This is what happened. As I was coming down McMurray Road from the eye doctor in a center lane right after the overpass, about to enter the intersection, a gray Jeep passed me on the right side, in a center lane, in the lane I'm in a center lane, at an excessive rate of speed and in a very reckless manner. I am surprised that this Jeep did not sideswipe me and make me lose control of my car, or worse, hit my truck, okay, and injure me and damage my truck. He was so close that I almost lost control of my car. Well, after getting in front of me, okay, he goes through the intersection, all right? It took me a few seconds to compose myself. Once I did, I followed him through the intersection, up McMurray, all the way to O'Reilly Auto Parts store in Bethel, where he pulled into the parking lot. And I followed him to get his license number, all right? I pulled up next to him, wound down my window, and I did confront him, right? I yelled at him something, what are you doing? Well, he's out of his car by now, and he's in an absolute rage, swearing at me, all right? And he also threatened me. Well, I turned around, I got the license plate number, I went back to my house, told my wife what happened. I said, I'm going to the Peters Township Police Department, right? So I come to the police department and I talked to I'll call him the reporting officer. I told him what happened and I gave him the license plate number, right? Now I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, and he says, well, he tried to talk me out of it. He says, well, this happens a lot in this day and age. And I says, no, I didn't want to hear it. I want to go to the magistrate. He says, well, if you do go, there's a chance that you might get cited. Okay, fine. Right? Now I said it's probably my word against his, because I have no dash cam and he has a dash cam. Well, the reporting officer said, well, we have a camera in the intersection. And I said, that's great. Okay, there's no way that this guy can lie himself out of it. So I go home, oh, I'm sorry. I go home and he says, I'll get back to you, all right, because I'll contact the guy. A couple hours later, I get a phone call from the reporting officer, and he said, I did talk to him, and believe it or not, he admitted to doing what he did, almost cutting me off, right? And he said, but he also accused you of brake checking him. I says, what's that? I don't know who brake checking is. He says, well, he explained it to me, right? Now, I'm 78 years old. What benefit is there to me to get into a road rage incident at my age? No benefit at all. In addition, the vehicle that I'm driving is a 2003 Ford Ranger truck that I've owned for 23 years, all right? What benefit is there to brake check this guy, and he runs into me, and he damages my truck beyond repair? There's no way that I'm gonna get this truck fixed. I babied this truck for 23 years. I put a lot of money in this truck to keep it running. That makes no sense either, right? There's no reason for me to do something stupid like this, especially with a truck like that. So I go home, and he said, again, I'll get back to you. Well, the guy admits it. He tells me, he brake checks me. He says, well, now I'm gonna charge both of you. Charge me for what? He says, well, brake checking, all right? Now, it's the other driver's word, okay, against mine, right? But now, the reporting officer, he said, well, you didn't tell me this, meaning I lied to him. Well, I don't lie. I have no reason to lie. At my age, I don't lie, all right? But his tone of voice made me believe, now he's upset with me because I didn't tell him the truth when we were in the police department. He says, well, I'm gonna charge both of you. Okay, so I go home, I'm waiting for a summons from the magistrate, right? Come to court. A month goes by, 6 weeks go by. I says, this isn't right, something's wrong here. So I go to the police department and I get a copy of the police report, right? I'm looking at the police report and there's at least 10 errors in the police report, right? So I said, gee, I'd like to, this isn't right either. I said, so I'd like to talk to the police chief. Right? So I'm talking to another officer. He says, well, tell me what you want to talk to him about. I says, well, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the chief, all right? Now, I wanted to talk to the chief backbench. You know what that is? You familiar with the phrase backbench? Nobody, right? I wanted to talk to the chief backbench in private about this. Well, I'm not allowed to talk to the chief, all right? No explanation. I said, okay, I'd like the police report, the errors changed in the police report to reflect exactly what happened, or a more truthful story. Just can't do that. I said, okay, I'm gonna make it easy for you. Why don't you just redact my name in the police report? Because I don't want to have anything to do with a report that's not true, okay? Can't do that either. Can't talk to the chief, no explanation. Can't fix the police report, for the errors, no explanation. And I can't redact my name, which is very simple to do. Can't do that either, no explanation, right? So now, my wife and I went out of town for 2 weeks. Came
Can I
back.
ask you one question? We're beyond 5 minutes. What are you asking us for?
Did you ever get the citation?
No, neither I nor the other guy was charged.
Okay.
Now, the first thing the police learn in police school is the police are supposed to enforce the law, not be the law, okay? And when you didn't charge, the police didn't charge this guy, all right, for almost killing me, okay? I never got an explanation why he wasn't charged, all right? I never got an explanation why they let the guy go, all right? Now, he almost killed me, all right? What's going on here? That's why I'm here. I want to know why the chief isn't available to talk to the public, all right? I want to know what level of harm to me or my truck had to be done for this guy to get charged. Obviously, almost killing me. It doesn't rise to the level of a citation or a charge. I think it does, all right? Why can't my simple request to change the police report, all right? It can't be that hard. I'm telling you, it's wrong, right? And yet it's going to be on record for anybody to see, and it's wrong. Because the last thing, both parties will be cited accordingly. I wasn't cited and he wasn't cited. So this sentence alone makes this incorrect. How difficult is that to change this? Really?
Well, it says accordingly, maybe he didn't feel that it was justified to cite you or the other guy. I'm not an attorney, but my guess is that the officer figured if this went to the magistrate, there's not enough for a conviction. It's you and him against
It's on
each other.
film, sir.
I don't know that that kind of.
What constitutes reckless driving or careless
I
driving?
think
or
all
reckless-
those cameras are gonna get your license plate. Can somebody?
So I didn't see the video, but I did.
Is there a video, though? You can actually physically
There is
watch
video.
it. Okay. all right.
His characterization of what happened, according to the officer, is slightly incorrect. After watching the video, he decided it really wasn't that egregious, and he decided that, especially since he talked to the other party, the other party clearly said, "Yes, I did." And it was entirely truthful the entire time, said, "Yes, I passed him. And the reason I did it was because of his actions while driving." I don't want to litigate this whole thing here. We might as well have done this at the magistrates if we're going to do it here. So what happened was Officer Stevick decided it's going to end up being they're either both going to get cited and found guilty or both found not guilty. And instead of doing that, he opted not to file in order to eliminate that whole step where they're both probably going to get found not guilty. It was just the easier of the two things to handle.
And what am I going to
I'm
get
sorry
cited?
you're not happy, sir.
What am
but
I going to get cited for?
I'm sorry you're not happy, but I've very rarely seen a complaint where somebody did not receive a citation. So I'm not trying to be flip about it, but the reality of it is he decided not to cite both of you because we don't decide, the magistrate does. And so he's telling us, you brake checked him, you carelessly drove. We don't decide whether that happened or not. That's up to the magistrate. He decided not to cite you.
So I think he saved you a lot of aggravation.
I carelessly
think.
drove?
I'm not saying you did. I'm saying the other driver did, and it's up to the magistrate to decide if he had cited you. In order to stop that from happening and eliminate that, we just didn't cite anybody.
So you
It's
saw
officer
the-
discretion.
Okay, well, let's,
I'm
Chief,
yeah,
since-
I'm good.
Chief,
So-
okay. Wait, one at a time now. One at a time now. Now, Chief,
Hang on a
Is
second.
that the chief? Is
Yes.
that the chief?
Yes.
Is
Chief.
this our new chief? Well, I just want to know why would somebody prevent somebody? He has to talk to the chief. It seems like you could have calmed this man down right from the get-go.
I didn't even
So,
know
because
about it.
I live here, I want transparency, and I want, because we're home ruled here, so I have a right to say this and talk here. I want transparency, and I want people to be treated nicely, okay? So I don't want an officer telling him he can't talk to the chief. I want our chief to be accessible, because you, being the head guy, should be that person who can be able to smooth this kind of stuff out.
okay, well.
Yeah, historically, he's been
That's all I
very
have to say.
accessible.
Right, and the chief's here, so why don't, maybe you two can schedule a time to talk, because, look, we're neither judge, jury, nor executioner here, okay? I mean, we've got nothing to do with who gets cited for what, and who gets found guilty, and who gets found not guilty, so, I mean, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention, but ultimately, the chief's the one that gives you the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else want to speak on a non-agenda item?
Bro, Sam Perlmutter. Matt, we say our address here, right?
Yep.
144 Jonathan Drive, resident of Peters Township. So on the theme of transparency. So I sit on the Parks and Rec Board. I think I've been there for a little over 2 years. But I'm speaking as a resident tonight. I can't speak on behalf of the board. I'm not trying to. But on my experiences on the Parks and Rec Board, I think it would be very nice. I kind of want to open up this discussion where, so our meetings, they are recorded. And when I first started there, if I had missed a meeting or I wanted to see kind of like what was discussed on a meeting I missed, I would have to go to the actual, physically go to the Parks and Rec Center, put on headphones and plug into the recorder. So that was the state of the art. Sometime, I think it was a few months ago, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, there had been a little bit of a heated exchange between a guest and a board member, and that person had requested a copy of the meeting. And I think that kind of made everything come to the surface of like, hey, this technology is a little outdated. I don't think the person was even able to open the file. So we have a more modern recorder now that can just be digitally put onto a USB drive, and I've been able to get that when I missed a meeting. My point is I think we're doing better. I think we're doing good, but I think we could do better. And what I mean by that is, in 2026, as Annie and I really agree on here, philosophically, I really like transparency when it comes to government in any form at every level possible. So I think it would be really nice if these recordings of any board meeting, but I'm just specifically talking about Parks and Rec right now, just like we have council meeting videos up, just like we have school board and committee meetings up, I am not suggesting we should video record these board meetings in any way. I don't think we need to go to that burden. But these audio recordings, we already have them. In 2026, it'll take a few minutes to upload them either to a YouTube video with a card with the date and time of the meeting, or even just a Google Share Drive, Dropbox, whatever, that's a link to an audio file. And why is that important to me personally? I think I'm technically serving at the pleasure of you. You appointed me. So this is something where if you ever wanted to not feel like, if you want to get a little deeper into what was in the minutes, our minutes are pretty light, but I'm not here to like litigate that by any means. Those minutes are decided between a majority vote of everyone on the board, and they should be efficient. But I think if there was dissenting votes, or if you think there was a deeper discussion that you wanted to dig into, you could just click on the link and listen to the audio at 2x or 3x if you wanted to. If there's different opinions and maybe some things you want to consider when it ultimately makes its way to you. For a board member who misses a meeting, they can simply click on this and look at it. Anyone in the public at any moment, if they wanted to listen to a meeting, sports is talked about in our meetings at Parks and Rec, so if there's discussions on sports teams and they wanted to hear more about it, they could, but just the public in general, not limited to that by any means. And honestly, I would say the decorum is great, right? But there have been enough occasions in my 2.5 years there, whether it's between board members or between board members and guests, which is a huge deal to me, that decorum can walk right on the border of being lost. I think if these meetings are known to be public, if people understand that these meetings are going to be public and available, that would also, both from a guest perspective, from the board member perspective, make sure that decorum is maintained. I think those are the main reasons for it. So I think that's something, if you want to discuss and consider. I don't think this should be a burden from a cost perspective and from a time perspective, because like I said, I know I've said it a few times now, it's 2026, we now have a portable digital file that can be uploaded to YouTube, Vimeo, or even just to like some type of shared drive. Should take literally a few minutes. Cost-wise, I can't imagine there is any, but as soon as I got on the board, one of the first things I did was made sure that the dockets were not mailed to me just to save a few bucks per month, and a few other board members did that as well. So we're saving $100, $200 a year. So if there is a little cost, I think we can find a way to afford it. I don't know if you had any questions for me, if there's any comments, but that's really what I was.
Who's taping them now?
There's an audio recorder that's placed on the center of the table by our secretary, by Becky.
Yeah, just like this meeting, it's being recorded for the purposes of being able to produce minutes.
Where do the tapes go? Do we archive the tapes then, or?
I didn't think they don't. My guess is they use them to create the minutes, and once that occurs, that they disappear.
So what's the official, like here, the official?
Official record of this
It's
meeting
minutes.
are the minutes. It is not the recording.
That's what I'm saying, so.
But, and the key to this, I remind council from time to time, those minutes have to reflect what actually happened here, because that video recording, although not the official record of the township, is held in perpetuity. We have, from the first time we started recording meetings, so.
But the board meetings aren't, right? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
what's being kept is the approved minutes.
The written minutes, so
Right.
the recording
course.
eventually gets
My guess
discarded?
is.
I don't know if that's true, because
I
I've
don't
asked.
know that
don't know.
either, Sam.
Because like, what would our obligation be, John, in terms of how long we have to maintain those? Like, let's say two people get into it at a Parks and Rec meeting, right, and one sues the other for slander, and we get a discovery request for the tape. I mean, how
Yeah,
long
like,
do we have?
our board, so you know, the courts have watched your board meetings as part of the hearings, and when I'm in court sometimes, they keep this part as their record as well. That's why Paul's always leery of who says what in these meetings.
How those motions are made, yeah.
But I think the problem we have is, sounds like somebody there who's taking the minutes has gone upon themselves to just turn their phone on or record. I'm not sure there's an official recording of that.
No, it's actually the township that does that recording.
Okay.
And they do that recording for the purpose of creating the minutes.
Then we need probably a policy as to how long we keep that, because that has been litigated over the years. I think so long as we follow the policy, I don't think there's a bright line rule. Most places, other than the video that we store, usually once they create their minutes, you're saying what, just
2 years. I mean, if something was gonna be actionable, it would be a tort.
Right.
Or a slander, which is 6 months,
Yeah.
or defamation.
But I think because there's no requirement to record the meeting, when
Yeah.
you do, if it's just a matter of ministerial practice of, we do it for the minutes and
On the
destroy
other
it.
hand, I mean, how hard would it be to keep them?
Well, no, I think.
Well,
so.
and it
for a longer
isn't,
period of
but
time.
the only thing that I would think that you'd want to do is, because what Mr. Portelmeyer has expressed is he's speaking for himself and not for the board, and if you're going to record those meetings and put them up there in perpetuity, I think you ought to get a position from the board as to what they would
Well,
prefer.
that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we keep them up for perpetuity. I know our meetings apparently are up for perpetuity.
I care more about right to know than I care about up on the law.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea.
I don't see a
honestly.
problem with.
Yeah, and where I'm at
I
too,
mean,
just
I
to make
just-
sure we're crystal clear on this, is I think they're kept for a while. I'm not asking this for even to be retroactive,
Yeah.
because I think that's adding a greater burden. And I'm not asking for all of the boards to be done all at once. I don't think this needs to be some like fire type incident, but it's like moving forward, you could start with a board or two, but it's just a philosophical thing about any chance you can to just make things more visible on the government side at any level. I just think that's a good thing.
Who would
So-
do that here, Paul?
Well, in terms of putting it up on the website, they can actually do that over here, there, or over here, either one. I don't think that's a difficult thing.
So
Yeah,
I have a question to make sure things aren't missed, because I am gonna bring up something old. I don't recall seeing anything about the cameras on the baseball field, and it was represented that that was talked about in the meeting, and that wasn't in the minutes that I noticed. Maybe I missed it. We have access to Teams, right? Teams is a record and transcribe, and those can be compared off of what everyone uses. I use it all the time, where it's not a recording, but a transcription, so you don't miss anything. So that would help me, because I'm not sure that was in the minutes. And then it was brought up, not on the agenda, and then we voted for it. And I wonder if that even complies with the Sunshine Act, because it wasn't an agenda item, then the public didn't know. Now, it is in a contract, and there was no cost, but we did take a vote. And I was not really happy about how that went. I would like to prevent that type of thing in the future, because if it is referenced by them and it is in there, then fine. But I think this is something that is an example of how we could improve this process to both, Ann and Sam's point here in transparency. And so I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and going back to that, I can't recall if, was that the baseball organization that came to the meeting?
Right,
Were they
yeah.
on it?
There was an item on the agenda
About the billboard
about.
getting replaced. Yeah,
Okay, and then that's what came
Came
up.
up, yeah.
right.
Yeah, there should have been something in the minutes to reflect the
Yeah,
consensus.
well, my
of the
point,
board.
No, but
I'm
what-
kind of steering off, but my point was it wasn't on the agenda, so there was no public
That's
comment.
right.
Agreed.
And given the sensitivities lately, I feel like maybe people should have had an opportunity to opine, maybe in the next meeting.
Understood.
That's my point.
All right, so I guess the next step would be to figure out what the consensus is on Parks and Rec about doing.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
sure
that's a
that that-
suggestion,
I
right?
mean, if it's something we want.
Well, yeah.
It's our purview. We should be
I
able to
will
ask
say,
for it,
like,
right?
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely within your purview as, again, your consumers. We're supposed to be, I think, in theory, I might have this wrong, your eyes and ears in these other organizations, because you guys just can't cover everything. You can't be in so many places at one time, so that's kind of our role on these different things. So these minutes are a product being delivered to you to some degree, and if you're just like, hey, I want to hear more about this discussion, you could jump into that if you wanted at any moment. But my biggest thing is the public, at any moment, if they ever want to see what's going on in a different board, and they just want to hear those discussions, maybe they're interested in being on one of these boards, and a really nice way to do that is to just be able to listen to a meeting, just like people watch the videos on these meetings, if they're are interested in council or something like that. So anyways, that's a recommendation. I think the burden's very low. I think the cost is very low, and I just think it's adding just another layer of transparency, which I'm always going to say is a good thing when it comes to government.
No, I agree with that.
If something's
So how do we go
recorded,
about it then?
That was my
this is in the news, and I don't want to get into how it was in the news, but you always have the opportunity, if you miss something, to modify previous minutes if you have some evidence to show that, I guess,
Well,
right? So
that's
you-
why they typically review the minutes and vote on them to see if everything was
Yeah,
caught or
yeah.
not.
that's why council votes on the minutes.
Yeah, but we see the minutes written down, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
Okay, so-
Well, I think the only hesitation I have, and with any record, because I have to deal with it at some
Sure,
point,
I get it.
is so long as the board understands what they say is gonna be recorded, and if somebody doesn't like it out in the public world, if they, if they're not schooled in making accusations of people or defaming somebody from their side of the podium, they have to be mindful that
Well, I
hearing's
think
out.
probably
We
that
should
every meeting you start, the chairman would have to say that this meeting's going to be recorded.
Right.
Or put a sign up, because if somebody comes in
Yeah.
To
late.
your point, and I actually completely understand where you're coming from, and I almost, to your point, I love that idea that everyone understands what you say. You should be willing to stand behind it, right? You know what I'm saying?
Well, beyond
So-
stand behind it too, if something happens, it may come back to council because the township might get sued. So we just have to be mindful that they're
Understood.
speaking on behalf of the township at times.
Well, it's like when we used to, hear the disputes about certain coaches' clearances, and he said this, she said that. If the meetings had been recorded, and we never would have had that issue.
Right.
I think it might help decorum and maybe to your point, but.
There's
it
definitely a
probably-
plus. I'm all for the
Yeah.
transparency, having it available. I think you're right. Everybody now just clicks on it after the fact to watch it. And if there's an issue of Parks and Rec, they want to see it, they should have access.
Or any
So-
board,
So
yeah.
long as your board understands, they should understand that regardless, be mindful of what they're saying from that side of the
Agreed.
podium.
Well, yeah, but they should be, you're exactly right. They should be careful what they're saying, regardless of whether they're being recorded or not.
So what's the direction from council? Do you want me to go back to the Park and Rec Board and ask this question, or do you want to make the decision tonight?
Well, do all the boards
Well, does this need to be an
record?
agenda item?
Yeah, can we just
I
make
was
an
gonna-
agenda item?
yeah,
If people
next
want to
next
talk
time.
about it at the next meeting, they
We
can
can
bring
do
their
that.
opinions.
I don't think there's a rush, and I really want you to
Yeah.
take
Oh, no,
your
it's a
time
good
with this.
idea.
I think it doesn't.
Are there other boards, or we
Well,
just?
see, that's
gonna-
my thing. I
That's
think
what I wanna
maybe,
know. How many boards do they all take?
I think they all should be recorded. They all should be public record.
They are not, I can guarantee you, they're not all recorded.
well,
Even
and
the
I think-
zoning
Well, they're not
board,
now, but
well,
they
the
should
zoning
be.
board has a transcription, but
Transcription,
there's
so-
some that doesn't get transcribed.
well, maybe we need to look into that for all boards. Now, granted,
Right.
nobody's going to download and listen to the transcript of the cable television board, most likely, or the.
Look what I started.
They may, the
If they
construction
wanted to,
appeals
it should
board,
be
at one
available.
time in 5 years, they meet, right?
Yeah.
Well,
But,
certain boards, I don't think you could, like, what about the youth commission? Because those are
Sorry,
mine.
That- well, that-
I
that
didn't
can't-
think this was gonna
You
be
couldn't have their
this
names in there, you'd have to
Yeah.
redact all that.
And
Yeah,
having
you can't do
been,
Not doing that, chief.
but I mean, the library
I'm
board.
just
I
gonna
mean,
step
there's no
back so I
reason-
don't add any more to
Yeah.
this, but
No,
thank
but-
you for your consideration.
But I guess
So
it's a,
within reason, ones that can be recorded,
Right.
I think
Well-
should be recorded.
and it's not only a question whether they can be, whether they ought to be. I
what I
haven't
meant by
been to the
can.
Environmental Quality Board and the Cable Board. I think there's very little value in recording those meetings. The Library Board, I don't know.
well, I guess the agenda item could be.
We'll talk
of the-
about-
Of which ones we
Yeah.
can record,
Right.
there's some that we cannot, right? What does the public, how does the public feel about each and every one? And someone can come
Yeah.
back and say, this one, and they had the opportunity, we don't record that one because no one.
Okay.
And I
mean,
think,
there's, I mean, we have the technology nowadays, there's no reason, I mean, unless you're really bored out of your skull, you're not gonna spend, Friday night listening to the transcripts of the EQB board meeting, no offense to the EQB board, right? But I mean, Parks and Rec board, zoning board, library board, people would probably be
Maybe a
interested in that.
proactive thing. I'm just
Right.
trying, I hate being reactive to things, it's just like, if there is a person, a taxpayer who wants to listen to a meeting, that is their right to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And just making the stuff available since the burden and cost is so extremely low. But there are some people who might wanna get into those details and listen, and I think that's a good thing.
Yep, thanks, Sam.
Agreed. Thanks, Sam.
All right, anybody else want to speak on a non-agenda item? the lady who needs no introduction.
Well, you know, I just have something to report. I have completed the sign, all right? I know none of you have seen it, that's
It's
all right.
beautiful.
I've seen it.
Have you seen it? Did you see it? Okay, well, anyway, it is deteriorating, okay? It is eroding.
We're aware of that.
Yes, because I had to repaint some of the big letters, you know, and I did this, you know, I started before the Christmas holiday and then had to do it some after, because you have to go out when the temperature's right, or the paint won't stir. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay, so you know, we are gonna have to get new monuments, but I want you to know, I will try to take care of it as best I can. As it's eroding, I will paint over, okay, the stone, and I'll keep trying to make the letters look nice, because I think it's important that, you know, the entrance to our township looks nice. And we are very anxious to start planning again for the spring. And we do want to put some bulbs in the fall, so that we'll have daffodils coming up in the spring too. And you have paid me nothing. I have saved the township a little bit of money, okay? I have taken the burden of the paint and the paintbrushes and everything. And a $95 rhododendron that I planted died because it didn't get watered enough, but that's all right. That's okay, okay. So
Thank you,
that's all
Mich-
I have to report.
Just brush up on your, you know, mortar and concrete and brick laying skills.
When that goes, you know, we're gonna call one.
Yeah, that'll be next, okay.
How long has that sign been there?
See, thank you.
Both of those signs need to be replaced. One of the things that you're seeing in the comprehensive plan is a discussion about signage and branding. And one of the things I think we need to look at in terms of the next budget is signs throughout the township and bringing them up to date.
Or putting one at the park would be nice too.
Well, no, that's the point.
Yeah,
That's the point.
Okay, is there anybody else who wants to speak on a non-agenda item? All right, so let's get into new business. First item, award of a contract under the Pennsylvania Cooperative Purchasing Program, CoStars, for the purchase of two 2026 Ford F600 Super Duty four-wheel drive dump trucks for use by the Public Works Department.
So the Peters Township 2026 budget includes an appropriation of $140,000 for the purchase of two Ford F600 cabs and chassis. Once acquired, these trucks will be equipped with dump bodies and hydraulics under a separate contract. It's anticipated the trucks will be placed into service in early 2027. Included in the docket is a price quotation from the Laurel Auto Group for the purchase of the trucks at $65 a piece, or $120,130 for both of them. The purchase is being made under the CoStars program, and it's my recommendation that council award a contract to Laurel Auto Group under the CoStars program for the purchase of these two trucks. The one thing that I will note, these are actually sitting on the lot, so they're gonna be available to us immediately. And so it may well be that those dump bodies can be installed before the year's done.
I'll make a motion that we approve the award of a contract to Laurel Auto Group under the CoStars program for the purchase of the two 2026 Ford F600 Super Duty four-wheel drive trucks in the amount of $120,130.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, authorization to proceed with Hill Place Road Traffic Calming Plan.
So one of the things we know, and it's been verified by our traffic engineer, is that there's a speeding problem on Hill Place Road. Back in 2009, we did an initial project there that involved putting in fog lanes and rumble strips in the center. That problem persists, and what has been proposed is a series of signs and pavement markings across the road, delineating the curves, as well as putting rumble strips across the road. And so there was an open house with the with the residents. The majority of residents are in favor of this plan. If in fact, after a period of time when we go out and check this, if in fact additional traffic calming is needed, what's being recommended is not a speed hump, but a cushion, a speed cushion. The concern from the fire department is, given the nature of the road now, to be able to get that truck across it without having to go over the hump. And these designs are intended to, that a truck could straddle the hump that's in the center there, so. The cost of undertaking this is estimated to be $6,000. That money's certainly available inside the township's budget. It's my recommendation that council authorize the implementation of phase 1 of the Hill Place traffic calming plan.
Paul, does that $6,000 include the cost of the permanent electronic speed displays?
That,
No, that's just the
Yeah.
payment. mark.
That's my big concern. I think if you're gonna put those electronic speed controls up there, they should be temporary. Because if this doesn't work and you put the cushions down and that doesn't work, why are we gonna waste the money on that?
and that's not a problem.
Because
I mean,
we've had a
it's-
lot, I mean, that speeding's gonna go on no matter what. And if you think that's gonna slow, those things are gonna slow anything down, you're out of your mind.
Oh, I think it's gonna be very difficult to control speeding on Hill Place.
Oh, I agree with you.
Because
I
of
don't
the
think it's gonna
topography.
be possible, because then the only alternative would be to put like really bad speed humps, and nobody's, it likes those.
So what is the cost for the electronic displays?
Well, I think the displays themselves are like $2,500, isn't that it? The one thing about it is,
They're 23, 2,500.
yeah,
I was told that, I guess every year we buy X number of them, and we had 2 to allocate for Hill Place. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, the term permanent doesn't mean that you can't ever take them down. Like, you don't throw them in the garbage once you take, I mean, they could be reused. It's just more of a permanent installation than the
Okay,
temporary
okay.
solar ones that
I
we
mean,
have up.
you can see my point. I mean, you're gonna spend $5,000.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to keep them up if it's not
If
working.
it's not
yeah.
gonna make any difference, then,
Sure.
I mean, I don't care too much about the signage, because it's relatively cheap, but, you know, if it works, it's great, right? Then we
Yeah.
could, if they were temporary, we'd just make them permanent, but if you can put a permanent one up there and then take it down and reuse it, then I don't have a problem with that. I just don't think I wanted to spend the extra $5,000 if we didn't have to.
Right.
So then if that's the case, for phase 1, is the cost then 11,000? It's 6,000 plus the 2 displays?
that would be right.
I don't know, that's just my thought. I don't, if you guys want to do it the other way, that's fine with me as well, but.
I think the point of the speed displays is, we have them anyways, like, I think we ordered 4 for this year anyways.
All right, so we are,
They're already gone, like, they're already in the budget, so we're either gonna use them here or some other road.
all right, so we're not buying them especially for this. thing.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
This is a township road, right, I'm guessing, right?
Correct.
And the design speed is 25, or that's just what we set it at?
Oh, that's just what it's set at. It's an ancient.
So we have a
road, you know.
speeding problem, but because we set it at 25 miles an
Oh,
hour.
this is actually the discussion Mr. Zamitis and I have had with regard to this road. It may well be, what the real problem is, the speed limit's too low.
It is very difficult to
Right.
go
Like if
25 on that road.
Like, if I know highway engineering, I don't see any, and people might not like this, why it is actually posted at 25. And I swear I drove by today and one of the side streets connected to it is posted at 35, but I'd have to find it. So it's the township and the residents' desire to have the speed limit set artificially low, because PennDOT often does traffic studies and they check to see what the average speeds are, and since it's so
Right.
straight and there aren't
Yeah.
blind corners, it's likely a 35 or mile an hour road, right?
Oh, well, we have traffic counts and speeds on this
You
road.
do, yeah.
So Mark, would that warrant then a 35 mile per hour? Did you look at that to see what the percentages were?
I don't know that. I don't
You
know.
told me PennDOT sets a speed.
No, this is on the township road.
What is Turkey Foot? You told me
Bless you.
PennDOT sets the speed on.
Township,
Turkey
it's,
Foot. Is that what
PennDOT
I-
sets the speed on state roads.
And that's state road or township road, Turkey Foot?
Township.
Well, you told me PennDOT, I was, that here, transparency, we need.
Well,
to
maybe it's
look
right
at
at the
those.
end, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the matter, truth of the matter is, you set the speed limit at 35, it's not gonna keep people from going. If it's a 20, if it's 25, they're going 40, you
Sure.
said 35, they're gonna go 50.
Yeah, you know, one of the keys has always been traffic enforcement doesn't happen until you're 10 miles over the speed limit.
And everybody
So
knows
if you-
that.
If you set it at 35, now we're up to 45 before you can write a ticket. And I
Right.
don't think you want people traveling that fast, but Mr. Curry's point on this road is good. You look at the topography of that, it's very difficult to go that slow on that road.
I actually tried it once after the residents came in. I mean, to actually go 25 miles an hour on that road, I mean, you really have to concentrate on it. I mean, it's
You
like
gotta be
foot on the
riding your
brake,
brake
foot
on
on the
that
brake,
hill.
foot on the brake as you're going around it.
park one of the old cop cars at the bottom.
Yeah, but you know,
With
my
the fake guy in
street's
it.
pretty, my street's pretty level, and you could really fly down there.
Yeah,
It's 25, and I'm glad it's 25, because we have a lot of kids and stuff.
The problem with
The
this one
concern that it's
is,
narrow and that
Oh, I
like
know.
people,
Mine's
like there's
real
not
low,
a safe
yeah,
place
I
to
know.
walk and that kind of stuff, I guess.
Well, and you correct me if I'm
Well, we
wrong,
could just take
part
them.
of it,
doesn't
I
work.
think,
Just take them down.
is to do with the curves on the road are, you know, because it isn't a straight shot. And part of what this tries to do, and I actually had luck with this on Sugar Camp Road, marking those curves and putting down strips so that alerts you about those curves coming up, actually has worked on Sugar Camp Road in terms of resolving some of the speed
There is an
problems.
accident history on Hill Place Road as well. So that's part of what our traffic engineer does when, step number one is research accident history, talk to the police department, get 5 years' worth of reports, then do speed studies, speed and volume studies on the road. So there is an accident history,
Sure.
and there is a confirmed speeding problem. And, you know, to your point earlier, it's, you know, a lot of roads are set at 25 miles per hour because that's just a de facto number that, you know, you can't study every road. We'd go broke with traffic studies, you know, trying to determine speed limits. But this is an ancient road. I mean, it's where the cows walked 100 years ago, and that's what's, you know, it was gravelled and then tar and chipped and paved and then made a road and, you know, in 1933 when the state came up with the public roads law, you know, so that's the nature of this road, and geometrically, it's definitely challenged. I mean, there's curves, and there's, I think even worse for the speeding is the up and down nature of it, so.
Yeah.
It went through the traffic calming process with the petitions and the public meetings and the open houses and stuff, and we're at this point tonight to where traffic calming committees come up with a phased approach. We try to do the passive traffic calming before we go to any measures like the speed cushions or the humps, so.
Oh, wait, can I just say something? Okay, you know, because you know my deal with that little strip
Yeah.
where you put the stop signs. Okay, well, that's 35 miles per hour. So as soon as you're coming up from Waterdam, you know, and if you're gonna be going 35, then boom, you gotta stop, because you got a stop sign right there. You know, so you guys, this isn't making sense to me, how you're figuring this all out. Now, Hill Place, that is I think it's a dangerous road myself. I don't think you can go fast on that road, okay? Turkey Foot,
Well, you can.
I'm still upset about Turkey Foot, because you got those people down in Venetia, houses close to the road, you don't care about them. You're doing 35 on Venetia Road.
I agree with you. I think 30 foot should be 35.
Yeah, Turkey Foot should be 35 miles per hour, because there's a lot of traffic on that road. I want to know who set that at 25. I want to know how that became 25 on Turkey Foot. I'm going to investigate that. I want to know how that became 25 on Turkey Foot.
all right, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we implement Phase 1 of the Hill Place Traffic Calming Plan.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, ordinance amending the Peters Township Code of Ordinances, Chapter 410, Vehicles and Traffic.
So what the ordinance will do is to allow for the posting of the Juniper Woods plan at the entrance off of Thompsonville Road that will say no trucks, local deliveries only. The same would be true up where Franklin Drive is. And then at the two entrances to Manor Way, there would be a similar sign. Where this is required by our settlement agreement with Mr. and Mrs. Snyder, the fact of the matter is, this is something that the township would have done regardless of that settlement agreement. So my recommendation, council approve ordinance number 923, amending the Township Code of Ordinance, Chapter 410, Vehicles and Traffic.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 923, amending the Peters Township Code of Ordinances, Chapter 410, Vehicles and Traffic.
I'll second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, authorization of the appropriate township official to execute an easement to accommodate the relocation of a water line to facilitate the replacement of a bridge on Oakwood Road.
So at the intersection of Oakwood and West McMurray, there's a bridge. The intention is that in next year's budget that we appropriate funds to replace that bridge. The bridge is 80-plus years old. To be able to accommodate that, you have this item where you're looking at relocating a water line. The next item talks about relocating an electric line. What the water company has agreed to do is to relocate their line at their own expense, as well as to pursue all permitting needed to be able to do that. So that water line is actually,
This is the electric line.
I realize that, but the water line is on the lower part of where this bridge is. The electric line is on the top. So it's going to be relocated onto a piece of open space that we have. So it's,
Township property?
yeah. Yeah. So it's my recommendation that the council authorize the appropriate township official to execute an easement to accommodate the relocation of the water line.
And this has been reviewed by the solicitor?
Yes.
I move that we authorize the appropriate township official to execute an easement to accommodate the relocation of a water line to facilitate the replacement of a bridge on Oakwood Road.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, authorization of the appropriate township official to execute an agreement with the Peters Township Sanitary Authority to accommodate the relocation of a utility pole to facilitate the replacement of a bridge on Oakwood Road.
So the electric pole is currently located up against where the bridge is. It needs to be moved back, and that puts it onto the sanitary authority's property. And they're prepared to provide that easement to the electric company, but they want to do it under the terms of an agreement that they've negotiated with the township. In part, the township's going to assume the responsibility for the restoration of the property if in fact it needs to be restored after the power company's there. I don't see that in all likelihood being a problem. The power company installs poles in numbers of locations, and seldom is there a problem with the restoration. And there's also a requirement that with respect to any work performed under this agreement, the township shall maintain, or its contractor, subcontractors, or other persons or entity performing work or services connected to the agreement will maintain general liability insurance. I don't think that's a problem because the power company's a public utility and no doubt has insurance that far exceeds anything that we would need. And then there is a request that the township indemnify the sanitary authority for all liability damages and losses, including reasonable attorney fees and costs resulting in arising from gross negligence or willful misconduct to the township. I'm a little surprised that this is there, but it doesn't.
That's good language.
Yeah.
Standard, it's standard language.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the appropriate township official to execute the agreement with the Peters Township Sanitary Authority to accommodate the relocation of a utility pole to facilitate the replacement of the bridge on Oakwood Road.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Just one thing, Mr. Smith, any concerns about the language here, or?
We went back and forth with their counsel, Mark, Paul, and I. That's when we had the Zoom meeting with. Yeah, they had their lawyers come in, so we actually watered down a little bit of what they initially wanted. So I think it's a decent deal for what we need.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lau. Our next item, approval for recording purposes of the Sobe Real Estate subdivision plan shown on drawings prepared by Gateway Engineering dated March 12th, 2026 for Sobe Real Estate Group LLC.
So this is the property where the El Campesino restaurant is located. What they're intending on doing is to dividing this into two properties. The idea is on the property to the right there, that there would be a commercial building for two tenants, and currently that's proposed to be a bank, and I believe it's no longer a restaurant. I believe it's a veterinary clinic.
Another bank?
Another bank.
I mean,
Yeah.
what bank is left? I mean, I'm just like, seriously. I mean, what bank is there still left to come in? And there's gonna be one across the street too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Claxon's
Yeah, but
property.
Citizens is probably gonna, they'll close the one at.
Yeah, Citizens
in
is
that old
moving.
Vinnie's building.
I think this may well end up being a bank that's moving too, so.
Well, that'd be all convenient. I mean, Mexican food and your bank and your vet, you can take your cat to the vet, go to the bank and go to lunch all at the same time. How nice.
Both plans have been reviewed by the planning commission. The commission recommends council approval of the plan. The land development plan was approved by the planning commission as well, conditioned on approval of the subdivision. The land development itself is
Now, is
only
there-
reviewed and decided upon by the planning commission. So it's my recommendation that council approve the Sobe Real Estate subdivision plan on drawing prepared by Gateway Engineers. And that, when, one of the things that's going to be on the recorded plan is a cross access easement, so that anyone can enter from either drive, and then there'll be the easement that provides access across all the parking areas.
Yeah, but it's all owned by one party, right?
It's all owned by one party now.
Well, see, that's my,
Mark, is that the deed I looked at, or the easement?
There's one of them, yes.
'Cause I-
I proposed some language about the township oversight in that. Did that make it into the final version?
That will make it into the final.
see, because what I'm concerned about is the doctrine of merger, right? Because you have one party that owns both lots, you can't have an easement across your own property.
Yeah.
So I don't want somebody coming back afterwards and saying that easement wasn't valid because it would have been void ab initio at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, once we subdivide it, I think we're stuck with that in terms of what are we gonna do. What I added in, or what I suggested when I think I reviewed this one, as Mark said, was that I think they said they could negate the parking easement at some
And you wanted
point.
that by the township.
But I said we had to vote on that too, because I didn't want them to negate the parking easement collectively in the future together and then leave us out of that. The council would have to decide. And that is the last, so Mark said, I don't know if they've recorded that or voted on that yet, or.
No, that hasn't been recorded yet.
Was there any concern by the planning commission about that entrance? The one on 19 is worthless. I mean, I'm talking about the main entrance into that place. I mean, it's tough to get in and out of there now.
There
I mean,
was no
is there-
concern
They weren't
expressed.
concerned about adding some other, like making them widen that or something like that? Or have the traffic flow a certain
Well,
way?
look
Because
at
you're
it-
gonna have people coming, this way and from behind, and
Do we know where the building's gonna sit?
I would assume it's.
Kinda
gonna
where
be
it says
against
lot
the
two.
wall.
Yeah. It's
So
kind
it's
of,
gonna sit like in the same general area as
Yeah.
the El Campesino building
Yes.
does?
Yeah.
So most of the,
There will basically be two buildings, they're probably 10 or 15 feet apart or so. And the second building sits in where the existing parking is.
I don't know.
yeah.
So Mark, do they have two different entities on each one
What do you mean, two different?
that own each lot?
No, these are gonna be owned by the same person, at least for now.
But who would buy
Do we have
that
any
lot?
oversight or obligation to enforce their compliance with ADAG or the accessibility requirements?
Yes.
I guess my only question is, if they are separate, then they could be sold, and each building has minimum requirements for how many accessible spaces there are. and
They're actually sharing a group of handicap parking spaces.
That's why I wanted to put back in, the township has to, they can't ever pull that apart without the township's oversight.
Because you wouldn't want one owner saying, hey, you don't have access, you can't park over
Right.
here. Like you see the, parking for whatever only. on-
Right, and that's how it was structured initially. The language was they can decide if they want to pull it apart, and we're like, no, well, we have to decide that. So that's it's gonna be in the recorded agreement.
So you're gonna have a right in, right out off of 19, and everyone else is gonna have to come in up off
As
the
they do now.
crosswinds.
Yeah, as they do now, and what my experience is at that restaurant is a lot of people use that entrance that is up off of,
Well, yeah, you don't have a choice if you're going south on 19,
Right.
unless you're gonna go to Waterdam, turn around, and
Yes.
come back up.
Right.
So then everyone's gonna be driving, well, no one goes to Banks anyway, so that's not gonna be a traffic issue. It just depends which veterinarian's gonna be there. It's not,
I'll bet you it's one of those little, like there's one out there at the racetrack, real estate development out there. They have like a little clinic. You can do like real quick things. That's probably what that's gonna do.
well, I mean, it complies with the ordinance, right? So
Yes.
it's like we really have any choice. So somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve is it Sobe? Is that how you pronounce that? Sobe Real Estate subdivision plan on drawing prepared by Gateway Engineers for the Sobe Real Estate Group LLC dated March 12, 2026, subject to the following conditions. One, record and provide a copy of the cross-access easement as a condition for issuing a building permit. And two, address any outstanding issues to Garrett King's review letter dated February 27th, 2026.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
5-1, Mr. Lauer, next item, authorize the appropriate township officials to execute a land development agreement with the McDowell Partnership.
so the land development agreement simply implements the provisions that were contained in the approved plan. The one thing that is of note, although it's never been an issue from the McDowell shops, is that what this does is causes the easement that would eventually create an interconnection of the shopping centers. And so it implements the ordinance for cross-access. If you recall, this was the failure to have cross-access that caused us to adopt the ordinance that we've been enforcing on our commercial developments about cross-access. So if in fact there was ever a change in the site plan at the Donaldson's Crossroads Shopping Center, you'd be in a position then to require both entities to connect.
So on the plans, where is the property line with regards to what we see here? Is it where the fence is?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's how much extra the other developer has to make up.
Yeah, and the owners of the shopping center have been adamant about not wanting to connect. That's why that connection doesn't exist.
Because they don't, in their lease with Giant Eagle, they don't want the competition with Aldi. Be too easy to go back and forth.
Yeah, but Aldi was there before this came up.
No, this came up a few years
This
before.
came up when it was.
There was litigation
Kmart.
over this years ago, too.
Yeah, it was Kmart, right?
Yeah, when Kmart was there.
Well, and this came up, when they,
The bank.
tore the Burger King down and put the
Split
thing.
that, so they divided it off.
We have revisited
That's
this a
right.
number of times, and the shopping center's been pretty adept at
Finding a way around it.
around it, yeah.
Yeah.
I was told that Giant Eagle doesn't want it.
Well, precisely it, because
That's what
they
we're
don't want,
saying.
You're talking about?
they don't want it to be that easy to go back and forth between Giant Eagle and Aldi.
We'll figure out what we can do to get rid of that. Last comprehensive, why do we do comprehensive plans? We don't follow them. Because the last one even said we should connect these things.
That's, I think, because when this was done, there was nothing in our ordinances that provided for that.
Well, you have to remember, Ms. Shaner, that's the Kmart, well, whatever they call it, now the McDowell shops, those were approved in the early 90s. That was well before any of this stuff.
Yeah, that's why.
2013 was our last comprehensive plan.
And even back then, the owners of Crossroads Shopping Center didn't want it because they didn't want Kmart competing with Ames.
I forgot about that, yeah.
All right, can I get a motion from somebody?
Yeah, so moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
I abstain.
501, Mr. Lauer. Next item, set a date for a public hearing on an ordinance amending the Peters Township Code of Ordinances, Chapter 440, zoning, Section 400, district classifications.
Yeah, there are two small parcels that are left in the mixed residential overlay zoning district, and I think due to their size, configuration, and location, it's a township staff recommendation that council take action to remove these parcels from the overlay district. In doing so, these would revert back to low-density residential. So if you look at the parcel that's on the left-hand side, it is surrounded by half-acre lots, and it would make sense that that be returned to that. That parcel that's on the right, it was a residual parcel from the Pemberley Manor plan. When the plan came in, it was intended for one home to be built. Since then, our understanding is that that parcel is sold. It abuts on the remainder of Frobe Road, Frobe Farm, which is now all zoned low-density residential. So it makes sense that these two parcels be changed. One of the requirements of the process is that there has to be a public hearing and notification to the property owners, as well as not as a matter of law, but as a matter of practice, notification of the change to the property owners that surround that. So we're recommending that council schedule and advertise a public hearing on April 27th for the purpose of taking testimony. The one thing that I think might make sense, but it's up for council, is that rather than do that public hearing at the beginning of the meeting, it might make sense to do that public hearing at 7 o'clock. The other thing, the intention would be, if after that public hearing, if council was disposed to make that change, that we're going to advertise in such a way that those changes can be done that night.
I think that's a good idea. Anybody got a problem with coming on 7 on the 27th?
No, good with that.
Are you still having a comprehensive planning meeting afterwards? 'Cause it's
Yeah,
gonna
that's,
be a
well, that
long
was,
night.
that was gonna be one of the reasons why I think we should come at 7, because I don't know how many people come out for that. But April 27th is when we'd like to do the workshop after the meeting to talk about the comprehensive plan. And our goal is gonna be that this is the only item that's on the agenda. I don't know whether we can stick to that, but that's gonna be the goal.
I'm going to make a motion that the appropriate township officials schedule and advertise for a public hearing to take place on April 27th, 2026, for the purpose of accepting testimony on an ordinance removing the mixed residential overlay district zoning district designation from parcels 540-002-0000, 004900 and 540-002-3000, 002500, and that the proposed ordinance has pending ordinance status?
Well, from
Is
the
that
time
illegal?
that I
That's
wrote
illegal.
that to the time this meeting tonight, Mr. Smith has reminded me that we once looked at this for Frobe Farm, and it will not have pending ordinance
Okay, well then I'll
status.
take that part off.
All right,
Motion.
I'll second.
all right, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, authorization of the township solicitor to execute a consent order in reference to the zoning hearing board decision regarding 111 Vista Drive.
So this is what I spoke to council before about. This is the parcel where a variance was granted to provide 36% lot coverage. That individual has withdrawn their purchase agreement.
We did file the appeal prior to that,
Yeah.
but, so it's sitting at the court.
So what we're suggesting as a settlement is that we allow the developer to move the lot line so that the lot is 10,000 square feet, which is the maximum under this section of the development that's permitted. that he agreed that the lot coverage be only 30% and that they waive the ability to seek a variance for the construction of the new home.
Okay, I make a motion that we authorize the solicitor to execute a consent order in reference to the zoning hearing board decision regarding 111 Vista Drive.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer, payroll and bills. Ms. Schoenfeld, have you reviewed the payroll and bills?
Yes, I have reviewed the payroll and bills and find them to be good.
Good. You move for their approval?
I do.
I second. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Any correspondence we need to discuss, Mr. Lauer? Anybody want to discuss any of the various board or committee meeting minutes? Nothing. Anything under miscellaneous, Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead,
Is this the time where we ask about this Parks and Rec thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
It says that in the past, this type of municipal upgrade has been funded by the athletic associations. Do we know that that's what's going to continue to happen?
No. What, I mean, what, you know, in all these things, what happens is, you know, and this is in the early stages. The softball association asked for help from Mr. Brooks to be able to determine what the cost of being able to light that field would be. And so that's now been provided them. They will come to us with a proposal that would be considered as part of, in part of the budgeting process. The thing that Mr. Brooks points out that I would agree with him 100% on is that there would make a whole lot more sense to turf those fields than to light those fields, because it would have a bigger impact on the ability to use those fields than lighting them. You know, most of the time in the summer, lighting isn't a problem. But what is a problem is the fields, after it rains, not being able to get onto them for an extended period of time. So,
similar to the baseball field?
yes, yeah. And what Dave's suggesting is if you want to do improvements, perhaps turfing the fields makes more sense to start with than lighting. But again, that's something that's going to come back to council.
Yeah, I wasn't
What the headlights?
pushing, in my opinion. It was, the way it was written left it, didn't really say anything other than in the past, someone else paid for it.
Yeah, and the thing to keep in mind that if you go to the baseball lights, the Baseball Association paid for those lights to be installed. We've now paid twice to have them reinstalled. And so, you know, we take ownership of this once you do this, and it's an ongoing cost that the township assumes, so.
Okay.
So, sorry, real quick.
No, good, John.
Their lights were paid for, but they've had to have been since replaced twice, similar to like the stadium at the school, how they had to
Yep.
replace the lights
Yep.
every so often.
Yep,
all
every
that
so
stuff.
often.
And then that becomes we own it after.
We own it after it's
Well,
built.
that's like, is the soccer, didn't the soccer pay for a big chunk of the
Yes.
turf?
Yep,
And
and now we own it.
And now we own it, and we're redoing it.
Yeah, right.
So-
Yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Lauer?
Yes, one of the things I just remind everyone, come March 29th, Allegheny Health Network will take over as the provider of EMS services. There was a letter that we drafted. It should be in the people's mailbox this weekend so that everyone should understand exactly what that means for them. One of the things we have coming up is after council has a chance to review the draft of the comp plan, there is an open house that's going to be held. The question we have for you is, do we want to go above and beyond and send letters to people to tell them that open house is occurring? The thing I'll point out to you is when we started this process, we sent letters out to solicit people to participate in the survey. And one of the things that HRG has told us is that they have never seen the amount of responses that they did in Peters Township. There was 2,800, something like that, responses to the survey. If in fact we just do our normal advertising, I don't know how many people will know that open house is occurring, so.
Now we're looking at another $8,000 or
Three,
$9,000.
about $3,000, single sheet of paper.
Well, we'd have to get a bigger facility, right?
Well, we are gonna do it at the large group instruction room, which would be at the high school, which would be more than big enough to handle that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, you had that many, I mean, if you had over 2,000 people respond, I mean, I think we probably should.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because otherwise, you know, then you're gonna have the thing of people coming later and saying, well, we didn't know that you were having it and all that. And
One of the things that I left for you, and we're gonna put it on to discuss at the next meeting, is a memo with regard to work on Saturday and Sunday. Like I said, the purpose was to get you something, but to also put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Now, will this be viewable by the public prior to the next
Yeah,
meeting?
it would be part of the public docket, and so
okay.
they would be able to see it. And I'll be sure to let Mr. Brown know that we're having a discussion about it. The recycling grant has opened, they've changed it. The maximum award is $250,000, and it is, what's the percentage? Do you know?
90/10.
Okay, but if we're to replace the recycling containers, which we need to do because the number of containers that are being repaired right now continues to grow, that total cost is about $545,000. So the township would be on the hook for that additional $250,000 to do this. But I think it's a project that we absolutely need to do.
now, do we still have to get bigger cans than we have now in order to get the grant?
Yep,
So they're gonna be the same size as the garbage cans?
yes, they are.
I need a bigger one.
Can you keep the little one?
Well, no, probably not, because there would be an additional fee to dispose of 2 containers.
Well, wouldn't they take the old container as part of the?
What they would do is, they would collect all those containers actually get recycled themselves. And so they would pick up a container and drop off a container.
I know we were talking about that for a few years now. I mean, I think some are gonna, I mean, they've fixed the wheel on mine, I think, 3 times in the last
Yes,
year.
And we're doing far more lids, we're having broken containers themselves, so.
Anything else?
I have a couple
I think that's
things.
it. Is there something else?
Redistricting?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask about that, yeah.
Yeah, finally, the county's gonna implement the redistricting, and so I think it's a good thing they're doing it on this election, if for no other reason, that people will understand where their districts are, and so with the next election.
I actually disagree. I think they waited too long for it.
Oh,
after
that I
the
would agree
petition.
with you.
Yeah, I know.
So I was gonna ask if everybody on council felt that it would be worth us sending a letter to the commissioners in opposition.
You can't do that. You have to get your complaint in before 1:15 on the 26th, because that's when the court hearing is.
Is there any
Let's
reason they
say
don't
the
wait till after
23rd.
the general election? They're gonna do this before the?
Oh, this has been sitting there for 2 years.
Memorial was 2023, wasn't
I
it?
think it's more than 2
June
years.
24, I think is when
Right.
you.
Yeah, now they're waiting until the last minute to
Yeah.
implement it.
Well, and what aggravates me is to wait until after the committee people have submitted their nominating petitions, and now you have people who are getting moved out of districts who, you know, were gonna file to run in their current district and now can't run because they've been moved into a different district.
Yeah. And,
Now, granted, not that they hadn't known that this was going to happen for the last 3 years, but still.
and what the county election office will tell you is, unlike every other municipality in Washington County, what Peters Township gave them was actually digital CAD files that allowed them to do this easily. They could not get that other information from other municipalities, and as a result, they held them all up.
So do we know if the plan that they're submitting now is the same one from 3 years ago?
Yep.
How are they gonna notify the public, like, hey?
They send letters out, I think.
But only to the people who've gotten moved. I
Moved,
presume.
yeah.
So everyone,
still don't
everyone in Stonehenge who was in District D and voted at the Crossroads Church is now in District C, and they'll be going to Center.
Probably
for the
3
hearing.
years.
What's the timeline again? Is it before May?
Yeah, I know, I didn't have it before, but I do now.
What burden does that place on?
The township, none, and on the county, that place is a burden. But I don't see, the thing is, all of the voting places are gonna be the same, it's just who's in that
Yeah,
district.
but I thought I read something that they wanna cut down the number of precincts in the county now.
Well, that's not affecting the township.
No, not yet.
Andy, does it affect anybody on the Democrat side with the
And
committees?
They want to go
No.
from 180 down to 150 some. It doesn't affect us.
It's
at
not gonna
all.
affect
They're
us.
not in Peters
Well, you
Township.
never know.
No.
With our
Now,
committee
they already
people,
have
was
them
there,
listed.
Oh,
They're
okay.
already listed.
that won't be able to run? Well, how do they get people to run for it then if they've?
Well, I guess you have to run somebody else on a write-in. Because remember, you only need 10 votes.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't seem, well, if you only need 10 votes, that's not
So, yeah, there are, I think, there was at least 2 of them, I think I knew, that ended up getting moved.
So we do or do not want to take an official
Well,
position?
you
I
can't
think
send
we
it to the
should.
commissioners. It's
Come on,
going
we-
before Judge Lucas on the 26th. And I'm neutral. I'm just
We
saying.
know you're completely neutral, Michelle.
Yeah, I am
Yeah.
neutral because like he says, this has been going on forever.
You might want to object to how long it's taken, but I don't think you want to object to the map itself.
Well, no, I agree. I think it should happen. I think it's too quick of a turnaround.
The timing's awful. The timing's awful, I mean, that it happened like a week after the nominating petitions were due.
Right, that feels like
Why they
it's,
couldn't have done it earlier. So these will take effect, what, next year?
No,
No,
I
this
think it
next
takes
election.
So they'll
effect.
take effect for this
May.
primary.
Well, you never know, maybe somebody
It's
that
ridiculous.
filed their nominating petition, maybe they'll object, and maybe Lucas will think that's a valid reason to, or Judge Lucas will think that's a valid reason to delay it till after the general and do it next year.
No, he'll say that you all knew this was coming down the pike. That's what he'll say.
I know, but until it actually happens, you're still in a different voting district.
Right, because I mean, even
Right.
if you knew you're gonna get moved, I mean, you're.
You don't know
still
when
in
that's gonna
petition,
happen.
Right, I mean, you're expecting that nothing's happened, I'm still gonna be able to run in this district.
Right.
We
I
don't do
would
any
think
of that
that
informed,
could be a
that
very
all the county has to
persuasive
tell them.
argument.
Yes.
So, but when folks show up to the wrong spot,
Someone
they will
will,
be ignorant to the process and will
Right.
likely blame.
no one out there looks at this closely until it comes the day to vote.
Right.
And they're gonna show up at the wrong polling place and they're gonna get sent to the other.
Well, I think we said it was, what, about 200 houses or so in the township that were getting put in different districts?
It's been so long since we did this.
So you can have like potentially 400 people show up to vote at the primary, and so you can't vote here anymore, and you gotta go over to this. And depending on whether it's someone who's going to work in the morning, they may just say, well, to hell with it, I don't have time to go to the other place, I'm just not gonna vote today, or
Well,
whatever.
if you're a good committee person, they'll know, they should know. Because I would tell anybody if they got moved.
I believe you.
so hang on a second. So back to Gary's question, should we take a position on this? I think that we should.
If you're that good.
I mean, do we wanna file an appeal? I mean,
You can go.
no, I mean, if we're gonna file an appeal, it'd be solely based on the timing of it.
Correct.
I mean, I don't know that you can file, I mean, I'm not an election lawyer. I mean, you've dabbled in that, John. I mean, do we have a basis?
I mean, I don't remember when in the 2023, what the changes were, other than what you're describing. It's been so
But
long.
what they're saying is they have no problem with the changes. What they have a problem with is.
The timing.
the
Yeah, I mean,
schedule,
why
yeah.
not do this December,
Or
January?
had you done it in January? If you'd have
Yeah.
done it in January, then people would have known what district to run in.
I agree.
And we had the deadlines when?
I didn't even know there was, Shaner's saying the deadline, I wasn't familiar with it.
If the hearing's on the 26th before Lucas, hey, I used to work with the courts. They don't like you coming in there and if you have a deadline. And the deadline is 1:15 on the 26th. You have any complaints, you have to put them in writings. In writing.
Beforehand?
Beforehand, yep. You better not go in that courtroom and object to anything.
They like John.
Warning is hereby given that any person objecting to this petition must file their objections with the Washington County Prothonotary prior to 1:15 PM on March 26, 2026.
What, did you not believe me?
Well, I want to see what the order says.
I think we're gonna do our own research. though.
No
Thank
no
you.
offense, Ms. Shaner, but I mean, as an attorney, I'm going to read the order, you know?
That
I
was
mean,
noticed by Melanie Ostrander. that she
Okay.
Put that out.
so,
I mean, the nice thing is it doesn't affect all your districts. It's not as though everybody's getting moved throughout Peters Township.
all right. I mean, it just changes who Mr. Arcuri represents and
Probably his
changes
state.
who Mr. Bensay represents. Because I think those are the only districts that actually had people moved around, I think. I think C and D were the ones that actually had boundaries moved around. Doesn't matter to me.
I thought D had some changes, but I could be wrong.
I think
It
D does
doesn't matter
have
to me,
changes.
John or Bob, since, we're representing everybody. So, I don't care. Someone want to make a motion that we file an appeal?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
I'm
If I
gonna
can.
say nay.
What's your vote?
I voted aye.
Okay, so it's 4-1-1. So, I guess, John, figure out what we got to do to file an appeal, based solely on the issue of the timing of the process.
The last thing I have
I
is,
think that's a good argument. Those people should, that's not fair.
And it doesn't matter which party you are, I don't know whether that happened on your side or not, but
We've known this is coming, so we're like.
We the only
we're
ones?
okay, we're prepared, we're okay.
that's why I got hung up.
okay, anything else, Mr. Lauer?
Yes, I just want to remind you, I know Mr. Bensay had sent a email after the meeting with the Peters Creek Sanitary Authority. You had something about sending a letter to Peters Creek?
Yeah, I think we need to do something just to keep tabs of when they're gonna make that decision as to whether that rate's coming down.
Oh, that rate's already in place. That rate's in place.
The lower
They-
rate?
They've billed on that rate already,
The lower rate?
on that higher rate, that.
The 75 on 2. What would, I thought they said that they thought it would be less. Can they go back and say it should be lower and you need to prove it that it needs to be as high? Is
Well,
that the
we can
process?
ask a question about how that calculation was made, but those letters and that bill went out with the billing in March.
Because they told us, right, they were gonna look,
They were gonna go back to us and
Right.
explain to us, because, when I look at the percentage increases, they're substantial, and I just personally find it hard to believe that the fees being charged by Clarendon Municipal Authority went up that dramatically, but I don't know that. I
all
don't
right,
know
so
that.
why don't we say if we don't hear from them in 30 days, then we send them a
Well,
letter and say,
yeah,
what's
we can-
taking you so long? Keep the heat on, so this doesn't get forgotten.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, two other quick things. Sugar Camp Road at Churchill, the little side ramp that goes down from Churchill onto Sugar Camp.
Oh, yeah.
Is that PennDOT's responsibility, or is that ours?
You mean where the cemetery?
Not that-
Right across the street from the cemetery?
I think the short answer is nobody knows.
No.
Because it's in horrible condition.
It's in horrible shape.
Yeah, I mean, really
We've brought
bad.
it up to PennDOT in the past. They've denied responsibility. We've done some rudimentary research into it, that I don't think there's a right-of-way for that ramp. It's on somebody's property. But obviously, it's been traveled by the public for decades.
Because that's one of those, we're either gonna have to fix it or we're gonna have to close it.
Yeah, something needs to be done.
I mean, our argument with PennDOT has been it connects two state roads. How can it not be a state responsibility?
sense.
And their argument back to us is, well, we didn't put it there, so nobody's really sure.
And we're talking about, what, like 60 feet of asphalt?
Yeah, I mean, if people are coming down there with any speed, it's you're gonna get somebody who's gonna end up blowing through it.
Tell them we're gonna close it then, if it's not their responsibility.
no, no.
We'll just close it
Well,
and see
Can we
what they
close
do, and see what they say.
Well, yeah, if PennDOT said it's not theirs, then we can close it.
But
Either
I
way.
guess if it's private property is my point.
Oh, I think you could close it, but, the shame
I'm
of
not saying,
that
I'm
is.
not
I
actually
don't think you
suggesting
could-
that we
yeah,
close it.
I don't think you could
I'm
make
just
it
saying
turn.
that
I like that thinking.
we tell them, well, if you're not gonna maintain it and it's really bad shape, then we're just gonna close it because it's a danger to the public. And see, maybe they'll come back and say, we'll pave it.
So
I
it's a
think we
bluff.
we would have to.
I mean, it doesn't
match
hurt.
No.
Ask.
I agree.
What,
Would they have
I agree.
that right-hand turn, because it would be,
They want to play hardball, play
Yeah,
a
you
little
can't
hardball.
make the turn.
Yeah.
If you closed it, you would basically negate that turning movement. I mean, you couldn't do it, so.
and they would have to do something then.
Let us send a
That
letter.
would be
Yeah.
my suggestion.
Yeah, Let's send a letter to the district executive.
Yeah, let's
for-
move it
That's
up there.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
They don't
Sure,
like
yeah.
it.
My only other question is, has our HR manager started yet?
Today.
Okay.
Ask her to come to the next meeting so she can introduce herself.
Sure.
I had a couple of things, somebody else doesn't have anything.
Go ahead.
So we got an email today from a resident of Hidden Brook talking about the problems with juveniles up there, setting playgrounds on fire and stuff like that.
Throwing rocks
Throwing
at
rocks at
houses.
windows and stuff like that. Have we, heard anything about this?
I didn't get it.
No, it's the first I've heard of
Should've.
it. Have they contacted
I don't think I-
the
when did you
police
get it?
department?
Yeah, I took it, I think he said
Maybe
he
I
was
missed
made
it.
police
I didn't remember
reports.
him writing anything in there about calling the police, did he?
I thought he did.
Yeah, I think he
What?
said he was disappointed that, the lack of police presence.
Well, he wants, the bottom line is he wants
It
a
was a
curfew.
curfew, which we're not, we can't do. I mean,
But, I don't remember seeing this. Was I?
no, you weren't copied
Can
on
you
it.
forward it to me and let me
Yeah.
talk to the chief? Because one of the things we can do is monitor that area remotely.
You
so-
sent it to me, 'cause I don't
Yeah,
think
as soon as I
got
get back home, I'll send it to you.
Thanks.
checking my township.
You're on it, Frank, but I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Am I on it?
You are, but I'll send
I
it.
didn't remember seeing it.
It just came in today.
All right, and two other things, actually. One thing, we had two residents emailed me about the lights in the parking lot at the rec center, saying it's very dark at night if they're parking on the side of the rec center coming in. So I don't know, because whenever I park, I don't go there that
light
often.
standards on that side, but I can check.
Yeah, check on that. And
There were
fi-
lights in there.
And finally, just wanted to say congratulations to Paul, to John, to Kyle, to everybody who worked on that house on Center Church Road. That was like a 3 or 4 year battle to get the residents the help they needed, get the houses torn down. Now I saw the lots finally sold. Apparently, we got our lien money back,
Yeah.
and now someone's gonna actually build a house there, and we're actually gonna be able to collect tax money, so great job, guys.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything for the good of the order?
I have one thing, sorry.
No, no, no.
You know in Bower Hill how there was, one house that was turned into multiple, and then it ended up being that they were gonna have too many driveways?
Is it right by the?
This is right across from
Yeah.
Walnut.
School?
I thought that
Yeah.
I thought that they weren't allowed to have multiple driveways for all of those houses. I thought, because it comes out to a, whatever, what's it called?
It's a
Connector
Connector road.
Yeah.
Each lot was granted a
They were all
driveway.
got separate
Oh,
ones.
They were
okay, I
little
thought that
departure,
it
yeah.
was the whole discussion that there were more driveways than.
That was the discussion, but we ended up granting a.
Waiver.
Yeah,
Okay.
waiver, modification to the
Modification.
ordinance.
Okay. And then I have a, last thing is Hahn Road, I know it's not like that connecting road to Hendersonville or whatever, or Henderson Road. And that's. not-
Georgetown Road.
Is it Georgetown? Okay. That is not Peters the whole way, or is it? Is it?
Township lines at the railroad tracks.
Facts, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where does-
Do we have any like goodwill with them to
We're giving them fire service.
talk to them about paving it again?
Yeah, it's a
I'm
pretty
just
bad
curious.
shape.
It's a mess.
It's in really bad
I
Are you
shape.
drive by,
talking
yeah.
about the section that's in Peters Township? or-
No,
No,
the
it's
other
the whole thing.
section.
It goes from like Morganza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty much
it's-
it was the bumpy road and now it's paved, but it's had a rough season.
Yeah, you gotta drive it down the center of the road is the only way you can avoid potholes. Just
why
hope no
I mean,
one's
there's
coming the
like,
opposite
I
direction.
mean, there's some crazy vehicles that come down that road, but I just was curious if we had any like relationship there to ask them
Is
to.
that Cecil?
Yep, that's
Yeah,
it's-
well, we certainly can have a discussion with them about that.
They weren't
I know
part
they
of that,
probably
they
don't
weren't
want to
part of
because they're
that
all Peters.
consortium that we would pave. We had that paver, remember we shared that paver?
No.
They weren't part of that?
You would need more than that.
They have been out there, they've patched it a little bit, but those patches have already gone away.
Yeah.
So it's bad again.
All right, anything anybody wants to see on the next agenda that we haven't discussed already? We have an executive session?
Very fun.
All right, we're adjourned.